Hello and welcome to Fractional. I'm Joshua Wold. And today, well, first of all, Lance is not here. He was here until a few minutes ago when his computer completely quit out on him. So he's figuring that out right now and maybe taking a little break, which is totally fine. But I'm joined today by a special guest, Beth Wanner, the founder of Mother Cover. And Beth, welcome to Fractional. It's so great to have you here. I believe you connected with Lance through Fractionals United. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how we found each other. So thank you for him inviting me and you welcoming me as well. So excited to be here.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. So there's a couple points that I want to talk about today, but I'd love to hear your story because you have gone from being employed to helping fractionals to figure out how to run their businesses, where to go. Take it away wherever you want to go, and I'll interject with questions. I'd love to hear your story.
Sure. So yeah, I just joined the fractional world not even a year ago, and it wasn't a world I expected to be in. I started my own company. I wasn't expected to be an entrepreneur. So I always say I'm part of that group of being an accidental entrepreneur. My career started in the tech space. I was in marketing in-house for 15 years in senior leadership positions, worked my way up to VP of marketing. But then there was some other things that I wanted to do in my life, which was start my family. And I knew working in tech, being in demanding positions, that my family goals were eventually probably going to collide with my career goals, but I expected it more so in a way that how would I keep up? What would it look like to be able to take time away for maternity leave while the pace of tech moves so quickly? That's what I was fearful of. I was fearful of unconscious bias, how that was going to impact my career. But eventually it was like, okay, there's never going to be a great time. Let's start a family. Unfortunately, my husband and I went through infertility, so that took longer than we thought. And then it took us into the time where there is a bunch of layoffs going on in the world. So I was even more aware of how starting a family could put an inadvertent target on my back. But so I went through actually IVF. I kept that to myself, but eventually finally did luckily get pregnant. But 2 days later, I got laid off. And it was at the beginning of my pregnancy. So I needed to find another job. I'm the primary breadwinner of my family. So it was significant to lose my job. So I went on the job hunt as a pregnant woman, found another VP of marketing job at another tech company at a startup, shared that I was pregnant after I got the offer, and they were very upset. And then I actually ended up getting fired at 8 months pregnant.
So I just want to clarify one point here. So obviously I'm American, so I'm aware of American laws and support. You mentioned you're from Canada, Saskatchewan. What what kind of protections are available for people living in Canada? That my brain is immediately kind of curious about that because I'm assuming there's protection, but it sounds like not.
Yes and no. Yes, legally, we are protected. In Canada, you are protected as a pregnant person. You are protected for your family's status. But what I often say to others, and that actually is a common question when I talk about this story, is, well, isn't that illegal? It is absolutely illegal to fire somebody for if their pregnancy is any part of that decision. It doesn't even have to be the whole part. It just has to influence part of that decision making. But what I also say is that our laws protect your job. They do not protect your career, as well as corporations know, companies know that you're at the most vulnerable that you are in your entire life when you're about to grow your family. Your income's basically going to go down to zero. You're welcoming a baby into the world. You're most likely going to sign any sort of severance agreement, take any kind of money to walk away quietly. To go through the legal system, a human rights case in Canada or a civil case takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time. They bank on that you're not going to do that.
So
Legal, most people sign, and companies do it anyway, and they know that people aren't going to fight back. I, however, am. I am in almost 2 years of a human rights complaint, and I'm doing that on behalf of myself, but also others who aren't in this position to be able to fight back.
and I'm just curious, obviously there's certain things you can't share and you're figuring all that out. Is this a multi-year to continue journey that you're guessing?
Yes, to get actually to a trial, this is likely to take several more years.
All right. So, given that you're kind of going into your story here, you're at your most vulnerable. The floor drops out underneath you. What did you do next? Like, where did your brain go? How were you kind of navigating what would happen next, especially being the primary breadwinner?
It was pure shock. I since I work from home, my husband could hear in the background, came in and gave me a hug. And I don't even think I cried at that point. I was just like, I can't believe that this is what's happened to us after going through the battle that we went through just to finally get pregnant, that the years that we went through infertility, to lose my job to a layoff, and then to lose my job again weeks before our daughter was going to be born was absolutely terrifying. But I think I benefited from adrenaline. That was like, okay, this is incredibly wrong. Not just my own situation, but just knowing that this still happens on both sides of the border, that this is common in Canada and in the US. So it was a matter of getting on the phone and talking to lawyers and getting that going, because also I had a ticking clock going of, I need to get this going before my daughter comes into the world. But that was kind of the main thing that was getting going of, I'm not going to stand down, I guess, just because I know that this is something really important going on in the world. I knew I was having a daughter, and I was like, it's even more motivation that I can do both. I can bring her into this world safely. I can be present for her, but I'm also going to fight this at the same time. So that's what happened then. I took time obviously with my daughter. That was what I was like, I can't miss this time with her. I'm given this time for a reason. So I focused on being a mother and being present with her. But I also, like I said, was the primary breadwinner, so I needed to start looking for a job. I didn't know how long that was going to take me. VP of marketing in tech, a lot of marketing teams are hit by the layoffs. It was a brutal market. It still is very much a brutal market out there. It took me, I want to say, 4 or 5 months to find the job from the layoff to the next opportunity from that I got fired from. And I thought, like, this is even worse now. Now I also have a growing resume gap. I need to start looking right away. So my daughter was born at the end of August, and I think I started interviewing and talking to connections, might have been November or December already of that same year, and then continued right through applying for hundreds of jobs, doing interviews, not going anywhere, but also just feeling dread. Whereas, like, this has to be this can't just happen for nothing. If I just go back into corporate, go back into the world, it will feel like all of this happened for no reason. So fast forward, I was going through job interviews. I wasn't getting anything, um, which was true for a lot. I know lots of people who have been on the job hunt for 12 plus months already. At the same time, I was thinking about being up at night of how do I address this problem that's going on in the world, where discrimination against parents and motherhood is still a thing. And at the same time, there's this rise in fractional and contract
Mhm.
work, as lots of people have found themselves laid off. So they found themselves there, maybe out of circumstance, but have decided that they really enjoy it. Whether they are young parents themselves, not necessarily young in age, but they've got young
Yeah,
children
newer
at
parents,
home.
yeah.
Yeah, that flexibility and control just fits their life. Or there are people who are 20, 25, 30 years plus into their career, and they're just like, I've earned this freedom, and this is what I want to do now. So the idea for what I started, which then became Mother Cover, was how to marry folks who are in that fractional space by choice with companies that have temporary leaves. Because after I had shared about my story, I heard from hundreds of other women who either experienced the same extreme that I did, or somewhere along the spectrum of being laid off while pregnant, while on maternity leave, or shortly after returning. And I put back on kind of my corporate hat, my executive hat, and thought, well, why is this still happening? Why is this such a prevalent thing? So whether it's conscious or unconscious bias, what I believe it stems from is, even those successful companies, when somebody says, I'm pregnant, you hopefully say congratulations, and then the door shuts and everybody goes, oh shit, how do we handle this? What does it mean for our goals? What does it mean for our projects? Or again, whether they're really thinking of it that way, but it has that moment of, oh no, this means something negative for the company. So then that idea of being able to marry fractionals and contractors to those opportunities can hopefully show that there is a workforce planning model here where you can have experienced individuals step in, alleviate that oh shit moment, because your work's going to keep going, momentum's going to keep happening, but you can still do what most companies want to do in supporting their team member in this important life moment. But it doesn't mean that their work gets paused. It doesn't mean that it gets divvied up to others. It doesn't mean that it gets assigned to maybe somebody else that might be looking for that as an opportunity for a foot in the door to take that role. So there's a lot of things, again, above discrimination and bias that also make taking that time away feel threatening to a parent. So, how do we protect their career, their momentum, while providing companies with a resource that's experienced that can step in, that can make it seamless and solve both sides of it? So,
So,
that's
a
where we're
bunch of
at.
things I want to unpack. You're
Yeah.
kind of taking the scenario of probably people who have experienced this bias and saying, "Hey, you can actually be there to cover for people who are about to have to step out for paternity, right? And or maternity, dad brain, maternity leave." And we're here to help you because we've been through that, or we might go through that. And I'm presuming this mother cover can be covered by anybody, but it sounds like it's kind of targeted to people who are going to have babies or who have had babies who are they understand that like, hey, you've got a period of time that this company is not going to have you. I'll step in temporarily. Is that kind of the pitch that you're making across the board for this?
Yeah, like, you don't have to have a parent to have that level of empathy, but that is who we attract the most. So, right now, we're at, I wanna say between 60 and 70 what we call leave partners, and they're across, different disciplines. So, we cover roles from HR to finance, marketing, sales, operations. And all of that has been entirely word of mouth. I don't advertise, I don't put
Wow.
out anything kind of publicly. It's been people who have either heard my story, are connected to somebody else that we've worked with, that reach out and say, like, "That mission really resonates with me." And so exactly as you're saying, like, either they've had a negative experience themselves, or, they have somebody else who has had a negative experience that's close in their life, or they've had a really great experience, but they recognize that it's rare and they're like, I want to provide that to somebody else as well. And we have a lot of individuals who are just like, I just want a deeper meaning to the work that I'm doing, much like how I was feeling too, of becoming a parent does not at all make you less ambitious, but your tolerance for anything not worth the time that you're spending away from your child goes way down. So you need to
So
have that purpose.
I love the way you're describing that because this actually gets into, I think, a really key thing that I wish more company leaders understood. I'm a father, so it's completely different, and I recognize that, right? Being a father is a whole different situation. I've been the primary breadwinner, and I once I had children, the pressure I had to get stuff done and not waste my time. And I don't want to be in this meeting if it's not valuable. I don't want to go to this offsite if it's not valuable. I don't want to work on this project if it's not valuable because I want to be with these amazing kids and my partner, and anytime not with them better be worth it. I
Mhm.
actually became more productive as an employee. I got more done, and I think I love what you just said. There's this perception that parents, and maybe especially mothers, are not going to be valuable, and that is completely wrong. It is completely opposite to at least what I've experienced in my own life and among my friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I felt like I was very organized and prioritized before, and now it's just like on steroids. From the minute that my daughter goes to daycare in the morning to the minute that we pick her up, I'm like, how do I capitalize this time? How do I make sure that I'm getting everything done so that when she does come home, she gets my full attention and I'm able to do that and able to balance it?
And it's so funny. I remember being in my 20s, so I'm in my late 30s now, and thinking, I don't have time. There's just so much to do. It's like, no, I had lots of time. But what I didn't have was these real constraints in my life of things that were more important than work. And so I could just work into the evening. I could work all night. I could keep pushing. And then my productive returns were diminished because you're just like burning your energy out. Now it's like, well, if I'm going to work late into the night a couple days in a row, my family will suffer. So it's got to be a discussion with my partner on whether that's worth it for us. And sometimes we say, yes, it is. Where, all right, I'm going to go push. I'm just going to disappear for a couple days because this thing is important. But it is a constant back and forth. And I love hearing your story because if you get a chance to be a parent, and not everyone needs to, not everyone, I say that's a mission in their life, but for me it was. I knew I was going to be a parent at age 8. I wanted to have kids. It has been one of the most rewarding things in my life. It brings such joy. The thing I didn't realize is how much the kids are just hilarious. Like you're just sitting around
Yes.
laughing at them. And my career has still continued alongside that. And I'd be curious. as you've been kind of describing this, you've been talking about the corporate side of it, resolving it for other people. Was there a mental health aspect of this that you tried to wrestle through? Because I've been to a therapist, I see a therapist to kind of wrestle through stuff. How have you either for yourself or other people seen that aspect of it being navigated?
I think the mental health part, like like being a fractional and going kind of through.
I'd say for going through a traumatic experience because of an employer and trying to recover, there's all the practical, tactical stuff, but then there's maybe like making sure your mind is in a good state because of the chaos you've just been through.
Yeah, well, and I feel like it has been a roller coaster of one thing after another that it's been hard to actually process fully because the next thing just keeps coming. When it was that was the same thing for anybody who's experienced infertility and going through IVF. You live week to week and cycle to cycle and month to month, and you get devastated, and then you have to go right back to it. So I think that built up in me of like you don't really have time to grieve, which isn't healthy. This could be a therapy session all in itself. But then going through the layoff, I was like, I don't have time to feel sad for myself. I need to find the next job. And then finding the next job and then it not being good. I was like, okay, I need to support my family. I need to make this work. So like everybody's asked before, like, how did you actually start working for that company after you tell them you're pregnant and they treat you the way that they did and I still had to work for them. I was like, I just have to, like, I need to fix this. I need to make this better. That was my mentality. Then getting fired, I was like, okay, here's here's the next thing. I need to fight this. This is bigger than myself. I need to go that way. And then my daughter was born. And I was like, now I got to focus on this. So this is maybe a long, winded way of like, probably there will be a lot of therapy that needs to come out of this. But if I didn't start Mother Cover, I think this would have crushed me. That has given me, I talked to somebody early on when I was thinking about starting Mother Cover, and I was talking about going through the legal challenges and the human rights and what I really wanted, even this person who is at the root of the story, to understand about what their actions cause, because it wasn't just about losing a job. Like I said, it impacts my career, it impacts my family. My house was up for uh, mortgage renewal at that point. It's like I can lose my home, like all those things that people go through. And a lot of women tell those stories about what it means to be laid off, even just after returning from maternity leave. Is like you feel like society is supposed to support you at this time. We want people to start families. We want women to have careers as well, but it just seems like everything is set up against us. So what that actually means when that becomes a reality for us. But then being able to start Mother Cover. So this person that I talked to said like, pay attention to how your energy is when you're fighting against something versus fighting for something. So when I started Mother Cover, it became this, I'm fighting for something. I'm fighting for workplace structures that are going to support not just women, but parents, caregivers. We all are going to have moments in our lives where something is more important than our careers, even when we really love our careers. So whether it's starting a family, whether it's caring for an aging parent, whether it's our own mental health, whether it's our own physical health, or even just something happy like a sabbatical, being able to live our lives and not wait for retirement, those types of things. We are all human beings and we talk about bringing our full selves to work. This is a way of actually putting policy into practice. Well, having motivation meant a lot. And that was my therapy. Plus writing. I share a lot about my story on LinkedIn, on podcasts like this. It's another reason why I'm fighting the fight that I am, because if I had signed the severance agreement, I would have signed away my ability to tell my story. And that is what has happened to most women. And I think I would have had to live with my truth internally. I would have never been able to talk about it. That would have absolutely crushed me. And I know that a lot of women are living with that right now.
You defined fighting for something instead of against something, and having personally gone, and what you're describing is not the same, but I just want to categorize, like having gone through burnout, one of the things I realized is it's not about the amount of energy I'm outputting, it's the amount of energy I'm outputting and not receiving any reward on the other side of it. So what I'm reading between the lines is you're putting out a ton of energy for something. And so long as you get to see the lives of other women, especially that you care for, being secured, improved, then that carries you forward. That keeps pulling you forward, knowing you're making a difference.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's been mind blowing, just the response that we've had so far. So whether, like I said, it was from leave partners reaching out to say like, this has to exist. They want this to exist because it means so much to them, and how can they help? We get the same from the companies and the people that were covering leaves from saying that they finally feel safe, like they feel valued, they feel supported. And the most common thing that I hear when I speak to somebody is, how has this not existed before? Because it's not, it is complex in the way that we're building the company. But I think because I come from tech, I think everything needs a high tech solution. This is just at its core humans helping humans.
So, a couple of questions from that. First, and I want to get into the tacticals of how leaving works and how Mother Cover supports it. I'm curious from your perspective. So, I have this view that people, employees, and an organization going on vacation, PTO, stepping away for whatever reason, is almost always a good thing. It helps to encourage them in their life where they're going. I worked at one company that offered sabbaticals, so you get a 3-month sabbatical. And the funny thing that happens is those folks that you create the space for them to live their lives, they might move on. They might choose to go elsewhere, but that's not a bad thing. That does not hurt the organization if someone amazing found something better or took a sabbatical and realized, screw this, I'm done, I'm moving on. There's so many ways to support people in leaving and staying and pausing and going. And often I see companies having this trying to grasp and hold tight everything, drain every ounce of energy out of everybody, and then discard them. And frankly, I don't think that's the way to run an organization. That's not the way to run a team. So, can you speak a little bit to maybe your perspective on the resilience of how companies can actually be better by having a more flexible view about people coming and going?
Yeah, well, that makes me think of a few things. I also used to work for a company that had sabbaticals in it for that very reason. It was supposed to be a time to reflect, to either re-energize you, to commit to kind of the next phase of your career at that company, or decide it wasn't for you and be able to, like I said, move on and feel supported with that. But for specifically around parental leave, there is a lot of fear that somebody going out to leave isn't going to come back. And it's one of those conscious or unconscious biases or assumptions that get made without actually talking to the individual. And we found that there's actually studies out there by Parentally and other organizations that have looked into this and have found that the percentage of people who don't return, there's a very small percentage that decide that they just want to stay at home, which is great. That's everybody's choice. But when they do want to pursue their career, they're most often leaving and going to another organization because their leave caused a bit of a mess. So
Mm.
whether goals were off track, the team maybe got burnt out because their work got dispersed amongst people who were already operating at 115%. They felt unsupported. They didn't offered any flexibility upon returning. So they thought, like, it's easier to start fresh somewhere new than to dig myself out of the hole that my parental leave caused. So that's part of our value prop of, this is somebody that you want to retain. You're investing in them ideally if you're offering paid parental leave as well. So you want to make sure that that person feels supported and returns. And this is one of the ways that we can help do that, because a lot of companies just don't necessarily think of the full experience of parental leave. They think, well, if I offer a paid leave, if I offer any form of parental leave, I've done the work. But talking about what a good transition period looks like, supporting them through that, what the actual leave itself looks like, being able to offer communication to the parent if they want that. For us, our leave partners write monthly briefs and either send those to the person on leave if they want it, or we compile it either way into a welcome back brief. So it's not just when you return, drink from the fire hose and you figure out kind of what you missed and where things landed, but you get that context all along the way of, again, not just here's where your project's finished, here's where the goals are, but here are the decisions and conversations and things that happened along the way to help make that flexible. And then our leave partners can also stay on board for a period while the parent is ramping back up. So again, they don't feel completely overwhelmed. They've got something really important going on in their personal life too, where they may have a child that's starting daycare, which is hugely monumental to a parent that's been at home with their young baby, and now you're handing them to potentially somebody else to look after. So even recognizing that from a employer standpoint, you don't have to do a ton of moving the mountains, but just recognizing that that's going on in their lives can fill them with gratitude and motivation. So we've heard from individuals that we've covered leaves for saying, like, I feel more gratitude and loyalty to my company, and I want to make sure I move mountains for them because they did it for me.
I love one of the pieces you described there, which was companies are afraid people are going to leave. So they actually set into motion mechanisms that make more people leave. Versus if you were providing the cover and support and care, your company would actually be stronger as a result. A minor portion of people would still choose to leave because they want to be a primary caregiver and that's what they love, but not all. And because of that clutching, holding, that fear mindset, it's actually causing the problem that some of these organizations are worried about.
Yeah, it's like that self-fulfilling prophecy of like, oh, I thought for sure they were going to leave, and turns out they did. So I was right. But actually examining kind of the systems and the reasons for that leave.
So in a improved world, we're not going to get to perfect, but in an improved world, let's say that a company is aware of mother cover. They have someone coming up, someone's listening, and they're about to be in a situation where this could be helpful for them. And they have, let's say, a mom about to go on maternity leave. What you kind of describe those updates, how that you can pull them back in when they're ready. How would they reach out to you? What does that look like to start the conversation to say, hey, I think this would actually be perfect for me?
Yeah. So far, it's been about 50-50 of who reaches out to us, whether it's the actual parent going on leave that's kind of creating their plan and wants to bring this forward as an idea for their company, or it's the manager that's working on kind of a leave coverage plan that reaches out to us. So we typically say that we focus on manager level and above roles, but we've filled senior IC individual contributor roles that are specialized and harder to distribute. The company or individual reach out to us will understand what they're looking for in that role. And because in the States, I believe it's about only 7% of leaves have had an external backfill before. So there's lots of companies who are interested in this, but maybe haven't budgeted for it in the past. And that's where the fractional model really works well. So we can meet with them and kind of design what an ideal leave coverage would look like. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a full-time cover, especially because everybody on our leave roster needs to have at least 10 plus years of experience. Even if the role itself only needs 5 to 7. You want somebody who has a lot of experience stepping into that role because it wasn't a role you were expecting to hire, interview, train, and
Yeah.
onboard for. So you want somebody who knows what they're doing, knows what it's like to step in on a temporary basis in a company, highly skilled in their experience, so they can step in, hit the ground running, and don't take a month to ramp up, especially if it's a 3 or 4 month leave. You don't have a month to spend ramping somebody up. So we design what that looks like for them. And it can be anywhere from 10, 15, 20, 25 hours, all the way up to a full time coverage. But we can make it fit for their budget. We can make it fit for what their priorities are. And then once we've kind of figured that out, we map out what an ideal transition period looks like, which is ideally at least 2 weeks of overlap with the person going on leave. The longer, the better, because you never know when that baby's actually going to
Hmm.
arrive. Then it's the actual leave itself. And we map out the communication and what the parent would ideally like to have. And like we said, we still write that brief every month, regardless, whether we're meeting with them throughout the leave or compiling that for the welcome back brief. And then we talk about the re-onboarding and whether there's any overlap that we can design there. Not every company can offer that. So if it's just cut and dry, we're done and they're back, we still have that welcome back brief, and we'll meet with the parent once they're anytime within the 2 weeks that they're back to go over that brief with them and answer any questions. So that's all designed. And then we go to our leave roster and say, okay, this is our marching orders, who fits this? And that's all built from this fractional and contract community that's all been referred to us, whether people we know or people that we've worked with. And they're like, hey, here's another great person to meet with. So we don't post roles publicly. We go through our trusted network of pre-vetted individuals, see if they're available, if they're interested, and then we go from there with making that match for a company.
And something I want to underscore here, as my fractional work has been primarily as an IC, so individual contributor, doing, in this case for me, it's like product design, UX design on particular apps. And I've had some fractional roles where I'm up and running in hours
Mhm.
and I am fully doing what's needed and I'm shipping updates on day 2. And that has shocked some people because they're expecting the level of an employee with a month build up, onboarding, going through all these classes, which are not bad things. There's a lot of value in those. But, and I absolutely agree with what you're describing. When you pull that right fractional in to support, they're moving really fast. They're able to understand and pull all their expertise. And this is why we started this podcast. A fractional often is someone who they know what they're doing across an industry. They often know more about what this company should be doing in this area than the company themselves because they've supported a half dozen other people in the last couple of years on this exact same vertical. And that's what's so exciting about this. All right, this is really cool. One piece you called out there is if you have an employee with 100% salary, a fractional is a fraction of that salary. So it is not a massive cost shift to be able to cover for that for a period of time. Where are you trying to go to next? What are you trying to figure out? What's your next piece that you've got coverage, you've got companies. Are you trying to find more providers? Are you trying to find more companies? Like what's the, I guess, growth path for this?
Both. I'm always looking to add a talented leave partner. So somebody that can, again, vouch for, here's somebody else that you need to know. There's always different types of roles that are popping up that is like, oh, I haven't thought of necessarily that one. Do we have someone or can we find somebody that matches that? So I think that's going to continue to happen and be able to be even kind of more specific for companies. So if they're looking for a marketer, that can go 100 different ways. Do you want a B2B marketer? Do you need somebody that specializes in account-based marketing? Do you need someone that specializes in digital marketing? So we can say we have 10 marketing lead partners out of our 60, and I'm just making up those
Yeah.
numbers. That's where I'm like that depth and being able to make sure that we have the perfect match is really important. So always growing that side. On the company side, things have been really picking up lately, which is wonderful to see. We've filled a bunch of HR roles with people who are looking for recruiters, which gives me hope for where the market is going. Companies are hiring, so that's wonderful. What I think our next phase of growth is proactively working with companies. We are working team to team at this level, so a company will bring us in for a specific team, but knowing that these companies have several teams and likely have several leaves to cover a year. How do we work with them on a regular engagement to support them ongoing? So it's not a one off, but a sustainable model that they've now brought into their company that can feel like a benefit. So it's a benefit that they're adding to their programs that goes far beyond a policy. Like I said, it's policy in practice.
And if you have a large enough company, you're going to have people on rotating bases, whatever, for sabbaticals or maternity or paternity or sick leave
Hmm.
or just needing to step away for various reasons. So if you're providing that, hey, work with us as a partner, we will make sure that all these gaps are covered as time moves forward. That is potentially an industry shifting way of thinking. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what it could mean for workforce planning and being proactive about these things because we know they're going to happen. But each time that they do, we still, and I was guilty of this as a leader, it's still a reaction each time, even though it's nothing new. It's just something that we have not really built the systems around.
Yeah, instead of, like you said, instead of being excited, it's like, oh shit, you're trying to think all the logistical pieces when as a parent myself, it is the coolest thing that's ever happened in my life. It has been one of the most amazing things. And I have friends who are not parents, who can't be parents, and they have had amazing lives. I'm not trying to distract at all from that. But for me personally, it's been such a wonderful thing. And for people who get a chance to go down that route and want it, I want to support that. I want to let them know, hey, this is the hardest time of your life. Let's not make it harder. And that's what you're trying to support.
Yeah, imagine just being able to feel pure joy for your team member or teammate, and there isn't that kind of nag in the back of your mind of like, oh, this means a bunch more work for me. Either I've got to figure out the plan, or I've got to divvy it up, or I got to bring somebody. Yeah, what is this negatively going to mean? Those wheels don't have to start turning. You're automatically like, okay, we've got this. That is our one of our taglines is we've got you and you've got this. So yeah.
I have a friend that she went on maternity and she then went back to work and then she ultimately quit to raise her kids. And I've been talking to her about, hey, would you be interested in going back into your particular field? And for her, she is so good at what she does. I won't say the field, but it's a very technical type of field. She loves it. And any company she worked with would be privileged to get her, but she doesn't want to deal with the crap. She doesn't want to deal with just the silliness of people who don't get that her time is valuable. She's got a limited period of time. She wants to use it effectively. And she loves her life. She is loving being with her kids. And that's number one. But if there was a company who would just cut all the crap and let her bring her best self for a little fractional period of time, she would love that. But that's not easy option available to her where I've said, "Hey, what about this job?" She's like, "Well, here's this. They're not going to let me pick up my kids from daycare." I'm just making up examples. And I think about her and so many incredibly talented people who've been laid off from tech in the last 4 years, myself included at one point, and thankfully I'm employed at right now, that they are available and so good and ready to do great work, but the companies need to be able to provide the space for that to happen.
Yeah, it's been the others like I originally was thinking of mother cover as being that win-win for the parent going on leave and the company. And it sounds cheesy now to be like, no, it's a three-way win. It's a win-win-win because we're also creating these opportunities for individuals who are fractional or contract to be
Mhm.
able to have the freedom and flexibility that they want. So like I said at the beginning, whether they are parents themselves who are like, yeah, I want to be able to only work 20 hours a week if that's what they want, or do spurts. Like some of them do multiple contracts at once and they're like, I'm working 60 hours a week, but I'm doing it for 6 months out of the year. And
Yeah.
then I'm smoothing it down and being able, we're just ending summer now. So being able to be present for summers, we only get what they say, 18 of those a year or a year, 18 of those with our children. So there's all sorts of different things that are motivating individuals and thinking about different ways that we can structure work, I think is so important right now when the conversation is being dominated by return to office mandates and those types of things that in a disproportionately hurt women, hurt parents, hurt minorities. I think it's
Mhm.
very short-sighted. There's a whole rant that I can make on that right now. Keep doing it because it's to my benefit. All those who leave because of return to office mandates or inflexibility is creating a really deep talent pool of individuals who want to do contract and fractional work.
And the angle I've always taken on these episodes, and Lance kind of helps to balance me out a little bit, is thinking for the employees, and he kind of thinks for the employer because there's good people on both sides trying to do great work some of the time. But what happens is when you are bringing on fractionals, when you're doing things like this, like if you're working with Mother Cover, as an employer, you are empowering individuals to have more flexibility and more autonomy in their lives. And that can sound bad and sound risky and sound like you're giving something up. The reality is, I see time and again, is you're actually allowing the possibility for individuals who have some amazing ideas and ability to live their lives while also benefiting your company. And there's a bigger view here that you've been pulling in that I wasn't even thinking about this entire angle of fractional before today. So I appreciate this, that your company actually will do better in the long run, even if it feels like you're stepping back for a split second by creating this autonomy opportunity for more people.
Yes, yeah. Again, that loyalty that it drives, that motivation that it drives, getting to benefit from what we talked about of how our um, productivity and output changed as parents. Getting a harness that within your company is amazing. And then for our leave partners as well too, one of the things that we pride ourselves on and say is that like we are not bench warmers, we're not seat fillers. We provide value too and we move things forward. So it's not to feel like we just held the seat for the parent until they returned. It's supposed to feel as if they were still in that role, moving their goals and projects forward. We can bring ideas too. You do that in a respectful way of in filling Sally's role, the way that I looked at her strategy and it inspired me to add XYZ. So making sure that you're always respectful and honoring the role that you are in, because it's not a vacancy. It's not the same as
Mhm.
filling a vacant role or taking on a project. You are honoring their professional reputation, their strategy, but doing that in a way that you can be a value add and you can keep things moving forward is another benefit to companies.
And I'm imagining the person on leave is protected and gets to breathe for a minute and take care of the most important thing that's about to happen in their life. The person stepping in gets to add to that and improve it. And there's security and safety on both sides where the fractional gets an opportunity to connect with a new organization, right? Which could lead to future work. So two final questions. One, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would love to have mentioned?
Nothing that you didn't ask, but I'll just add on to kind of that security feeling because the other thing that when external backfills are brought in, it can feel like a threat to the
Hmm.
parent. Is right in our contracts that we cannot take your job. It cannot be offered to one of the leave partners unless the parent themselves tells us that they are not returning. Then, if the leave partner wants to stay and the company wants them to stay, they can, or we can just again provide more of that interim bridge if they're going to go higher, they're not without
But it's
Some
only on the parent. It's not anyone else's decision.
Not anyone else's decision. So it has to be the parent that tells us that that's what they want to happen. So you don't feel like somebody is secretly auditioning for your job. Because when you're on the Canadian side and you're doing a 12 to 18-month leave, that is typically how individuals have felt. And then you don't necessarily want to set them up for success because they're going to outshine you or something like that. So this is again another way to alleviate one of those common stressors of what is this going to mean if I step away and somebody steps into my shoes. So, and again, everybody who is on our leave roster is there because they're connected to this mission. So they don't want your job, they're on to the next contract, and that's what they're wanting to do. So um,
And how can people find out about you? We'll put into the show notes any actual links, but I'd love to know. Feel free to share verbally the best addresses, and we'll put show notes in.
Yeah, they can visit our website at mothercoveragency.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find Mothercover on LinkedIn and Instagram. We're always putting out a ton of content around both for the individual and the companies of just the small things that we don't necessarily always think of that can help create a better experience, whether it's bringing in Mothercover, just the conversations that we need to have as leaders with our teammates so that we can be the supportive leaders and companies that most of us want to be.
Thank you, Beth. I'm excited to see where this goes. It's another piece to Fractional that just answers why this is such a great opportunity for everyone who partakes in it. Anyone listening, feel free to email at fractional.fm if you have feedback or questions, and reach out to Beth if you think that this could be an opportunity for you. I'm thinking about a company, actually the place where I work at, Angel, that we have a lot of people who go on maternity leave and paternity leave. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity there. This is just such a cool thing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really fun, and I'm excited to be able to tell more people about what we're doing.
And then